Subject 34387B is deceased. I paused for a moment and flexed my claws. Despite what certain members of the press said, I did not take relish in the death of my experiments, even if they were somewhat flawed prior to their entry into the program. Cause of death is determined to be auto-asphyxiation, exactly 40 complete cycles following terminus of the superlight jump, during which 34387B was exposed to voice-based conditions via a porthole measuring 13 units in radius and 0.496 units in thickness. As previously mentioned, the porthole is composed of a triple layer of UV-opaque dark glass laced with titanium and iron mesh. Onset of mental instability was instantaneous upon drop to real space for 34387B, though the patient expressed a degree of lucidity for long enough to confirm that voice space was, in fact, visible through the porthole. It is the opinion of this researcher that the dark glass-iron combination was successful in delaying complete degradation of the subject's speech and memory facilities, such that we were able to determine some degree of the nature of voice space. However, we would not recommend the use of this particular arrangement for the future expanded program with voluntary subjects, as the probability of death remains 100%. I glanced up from my terminal. The subject was stretched out on a stone slab, his carapace dulled from the normal lively blue-green to a wan purplish off-white. The carapace had slumped in the hours since he died. It looked as though someone had laid a hardish, shiny blanket over a set of organs. In another few hours, decomposition would accelerate rapidly. I quickly sent a message for the mortician to remove the brain for study, and dispose of the rest post-haste. Then I returned my gaze to the write-up. For the 39 cycles following exposure, symptoms remained consistent with prior experiments. Subject experienced varying degrees of hallucination, expression of multiple personalities, and a complete lack of understanding of reality or consequences, particularly regarding pain tolerance and damage to self. See previous subject logs for further details. However, I paused again. The death was troubling to me, to be sure. But what preceded it was beyond what I had experienced before, as part of the voice-based research core. It took all of my professionalism from thousands of cycles of detached, impersonal research to continue writing. However, at the beginning of the 40th cycle, subject became increasingly disturbed and uncomfortable. Subject became violent with staff and researchers and was forcibly restrained for the sake of safety, both his and ours. Subject attempted constantly to break out of his restraints and succeeded on 2 occasions. At varying intervals, subject repeated the words, "They are coming," constantly increasing in volume and frequency until, towards the end of the 40th cycle, the subject was no longer pausing to breathe. Asphyxiation followed. The short time elapsed between exposure and death is of particular concern to this team, as is the cause of death. Previously, the quickest time between exposure and death of a subject was just under 100 cycles, more than double 34387B. Furthermore, while death frequently is the result of mental degradation, causing serious harm, or more frequently degrees of dementia, the process has never been quite so extreme, nor violent. Further exploration should be undertaken immediately, though extremely carefully. This researcher recommends increasing... Ma'am? What is it? I asked, my voice tight. My carapace rattled from a shiver running down my back. Ma'am, new report for you. From Lab 28? No, ma'am, the assistant replied. Diplomatic Corps. Diplomatic Corps? I snorted and looked up. The assistant was holding out a tablet to me, its screen lit up with hundreds of tiny lines of notes. What is this? New contact report, the assistant said. He shifted between his 4 feet nervously, his head tracing a near-perfect circle in the air. And why is this relevant to us? I asked, frustration bubbling up. I tried handing him the tablet back. Tell Diplo to stop sending us pointless reports. And as for you, for the love of all that is good, please filter what comes through to me. You can read, yes? You can tell when something has any implications for voice-based research, yes? The assistant gulped. I did, ma'am. Just read. I sighed and looked at the report, skimming for words of interest. My eyes widened. I looked up at the assistant. He nodded nervously. I read it again. I blinked. Windows? My voice was quiet, low. Huge windows, the assistant said. There are pictures on the report, ma'am. I saw it in person. They're here, on planet. And they're perfectly sane, perfectly lucid as far as we can tell. Their translators actually beat ours to the punch, but as far as they can tell, they're a fully sentient species with independently developed voyage on tech. And they look into the void. They call it relaxing, the assistant confirmed. They sent a full report of their anatomy to Bio as part of early negotiations. Bio confirms nothing unusual. Carbon-based, similar brain structure to most sentients. Soft skin rather than a shell, but that's not unheard of. Nitrogen-rich atmosphere, but they respirate oxygen. Tell Diplo to cut off contact with these humans immediately, I ordered. There's something horribly wrong here. The assistant sighed. I don't know if they'll listen, but I'll try. What is it? What's going on? My eyes fell to the report I had just written. I'm not quite sure, I admitted, but I have a bad feeling about this. The words glowed on the screen below, and though I had just written them, they were not mine. And now they screamed at me. They are coming.